we will move on
Yeah.
to neither Marvel or Star Wars content.
Right. Weird.
So, Ghostbusters Afterlife. The estranged family of former Ghostbuster Egon Spengler inherits his farm in Oklahoma, and not everything is what it seems. McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard star alongside Paul Rudd, Carrie Coon, Logan Kim, and Celeste O'Connor in a movie that I love. But
so we'll do spoiler free. You thoroughly enjoyed it. What spoiler free?
Spoiler free.
There's really only one thing that can be spoiled about this movie.
Right.
Like, honestly, if you really want to be honest.
If you want to be honest, there's the one thing. But if we're going to do spoiler free, okay. I think I saw this movie when I was 4, the original, not this movie. That would have been weird. The original Ghostbusters when I was 4, because it came out in 84, and I think my mom had rented it because I just like things like that. And, it had Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I think I think I saw it started because I had the whole everything. I had the the backpack, I had the trap, I had everything. And I love that movie. And we did our top 10 movies, and I have Ghostbusters in my top 10 movies of all time. And I've argued with people. Yeah, we both did. And I've argued that you could argue that Ghostbusters is the greatest movie ever made. Like, I've always said this, if you made an argument strong enough, I wouldn't disagree with it because it has everything you want in a movie. I love Ghostbusters. It is, to me, like just that absolute everything. And then you see this movie, and I will say it starts out it's a little train going. It doesn't have the speed, it's not a Ferrari, it's a train. But once it starts going, I mean, the nostalgia effect on this movie, if you're someone, like me, that you were 4 or 5 when you first saw this movie, you're a kid of the 80s and you saw this movie and you love this movie, and you're like, even the second one, which I think is still really good too. And then to have the nostalgia kind of roll in and to push a little harder and to push a little harder. This movie, it's made for everybody, but this movie was definitely just attacking people that wanted nostalgia with Ghostbusters. And it hit me hard. Like, I wasn't going in this movie, thinking I was going to get at all like emotional, have little lumps, maybe shed a tear. I mean, it was like, a few tears maybe, because, I love Ghostbusters. It's weird for me to go back on this. I talk about the movies I love, which are, a lot of like, Marvel stuff and American Psycho and things like this. But this is a movie that, we'll talk about another movie that I see every year going for, later on the show. But I do see Ghostbusters every year around Christmas because it just is one of those kind of movies. And this hit everything for me. It did everything to me. This movie did everything right. It didn't do anything wrong when you're paying homage, because this movie was paying homage to that original movie, to those original 2 movies. It was saying to you, like, you want Ghostbusters, here's Ghostbusters. And we're not trying to do anything too new. We're giving you characters that are very likable, very, very likable. But we don't want you to think that like the previous Ghostbusters don't matter, because they still matter. Like all those 4, the original 4 Ghostbusters matter so much if you care about Ghostbusters at all. Like maybe too much in a way. For for the movie that came out a few years ago, the Ghostbusters, with the women cast, the female cast, and it was just like, that didn't grab me. Like this one grabbed me and it had me, and I thought it was great. And to look back at reviews of it and to just be like, do you even care? Like, it made me mad. The reviews made me mad. I thought this was great. I really did.
So that's an important, and I looked this up as you were talking. Critical on Rotten Tomatoes 65, audience 95.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that, as you said, if you have nostalgia for Ghostbusters, this slaps.
It slaps you so hard.
It is. We usually, when we watch stuff, we don't talk about it until on the show because we want it to be organic. I told you after I got out, I said I saw Ghostbusters. No spoilers, but it's my favorite movie this year.
Yeah.
And it's really, and I love Shang-Chi, and I really like Black Widow. I really like some of the other movies that we've done, older movies, newer movies, what have you. You know, we ran through the whole Marvel thing when we did the Fast and Furious thing. It wasn't even close. This is my favorite movie of the year. Yeah. And it is, as you said, if you were that kid growing up in the 80s, you liked Ghostbusters. I had the firehouse.
Yeah.
I had all the characters, you know, Stay Puft, Marshmallow Man, Show and Tell, everybody at the preschool. If you were a boy, you had the proton pack. That was Show and Tell. Show and Tell probably got boring for the teacher because it was proton packs every week. And so I will say that this probably doesn't hit as hard as if you don't have that nostalgia piece.
Sure.
But the fact is that both of you and I do. And so I think that I did not see the one from 2016. I heard it, you know, it got terrible reviews, critically panned, fans didn't like it. It appeared it was mostly just a cash grab, right? And you know, they kind of shoehorned the full woman thing in there. This was, and we'll get into it for a second, and I truly believe the last two words that were on the screen before the credits rolled are why this movie was so good.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And because that's what the spirit of it was.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say is that McKenna Grace, superstar.
100%. Oh yeah. I mean, like, you don't see kids in movies that often.
She was the star of this movie. She was 100% the star of this movie.
She has whatever she wants to do, and she sang the song at the end of the movie too. Like, that's her song. Whatever she wants to do, she can do. Like, she's one of these people, if she wants to be a singer, she wants to write books, she wants to be a movie star.
Yeah.
She she grabs you from the very beginning.
This was
amazing.
This was a vehicle for, you know, the sexiest man in the world, Paul Rudd, this year. And she absolutely stole the show.
Oh yeah.
And I have no problem saying it. Absolutely stole the show.
Yeah.
Couldn't have played that character any more perfectly. Like, it's a Ghostbusters movie.
She should be nominated for Academy Award. I'm 100. Like, I don't even say this. Like, I'm not saying this because of how my thing with the things about acting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's supposed to be about acting. It's not supposed to about being a former, like, someone that's been famous for a while. You can't be better than what she was in that role, because what happens at the end and the way that she handles it.
Well, the whole way through,
but the whole way through, she builds up.
She's Egon Spengler's granddaughter, and she is Egon Spengler's granddaughter.
Yes,
like she nails it, 100%.
It's amazing. It's so good. She's 100%. So good, and if she wants to come on the pod and talk about it before she's super famous, she can.
So, spoiler-free recommendation. If you have any nostalgia for Ghostbusters, see this movie.
Yeah.
Like, make it a priority.
I'm actually mad at myself for not seeing it earlier.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I will say. I'm mad at myself.
If you don't have that nostalgia, it's not going to hit as hard. It's just not.
No.
Because, and now we'll get into the spoilers. Spoiler alert for Ghostbusters Afterlife. For Harold.
I mean, like I said, I didn't think I would get emotional at all.
Right.
I'm sorry. I cried. I tried to hold back. Like, there were certain other things that made you, like, when she calls and it's Dan Aykroyd.
Right.
And you know that all these, you know that certain, and I was like, that's good scene. And it was a good scene. That was a really good scene. Didn't cry. And then, you know, we know that, you know, when it's actually announced, because we know it, but it's not announced. Right. And then when she makes, I'm Egan Spengler's, you know, granddaughter.
Because they played with that the whole movie.
They played it the whole time.
Said it.
And then, you know, you see him and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And like, I had chills go up my spine, and it's been a chills go up my spine week anyhow for different things, but that happens. And then when it all ends and it says for Harold, I was done. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, I'm tearing up right now. My eyes are gonna like, if you care about these movies and like what, it's also just like, because Harold Ramis he's beyond Ghostbusters,
right?
But he is also
Stripes.
But he's also Ghostbusters. Like, that's like the thing he and Dan Aykroyd care more about Ghostbusters than anything.
Yeah.
And if you care about it, then you understand it. And it's just like, to say that, and for Dan Aykroyd to do this,
and Murray.
Murray and everyone, for everyone to come back and do this, except for Rick Moranis, which was a bummer. I would have liked to see Rick Moranis just for fun.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? But for them to come back, and then for the way it actually ends.
Yeah.
With Ernie, it's like, oh, okay, like this is important. And like, I'm not wrong. It made you, it was like this vindication for like, I've loved this movie for literally 30 years. It's the only movie I've loved for 30 years other than maybe Cinderella. And it's like, and it's like, it made me, that's why I feel the way I feel about it. It was like, wow, like other people care too, including the people that actually made this movie. Because there's so many people make movies and they don't care.
Right.
They make it and it's over. This is a movie that they cared about and they wanted to make it for him. And I can't, if he can watch this movie, if somehow he can watch it, if he is, whatever you think of the Afterlife, I don't know. But if he can, he's proud of this movie. I would 100% say. I mean,
I would add that the director got permission from his family to use a CG ghost version of Harold Ramis in the closing scenes. And like, that was really the moment that I lost it, was because I knew that Ernie Johnson and not Ernie Johnson. That's not his name.
Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson.
Yeah.
I knew Ernie Hudson, I knew Aykroyd, I knew Murray were coming back. And when they show up at the end, and I thought that was the other thing that I thought that this movie did a wonderful job of paying tribute to the past, but not overusing it in the way that Star Wars did. Honestly, we said we weren't going to talk about Star Wars, but it always comes back to it.
It does. It has to.
But they really walked that line of making something new and making it their own, paying homage to the original and not overusing it and cramming it down your face.
It's also because like they didn't just save the day by themselves at the end of it. Right. And that's what made it so good. Like if they saved the day, it would have been like, okay, I still would have loved the movie because the way but they didn't save the day. They needed everyboy else's help. Everybody made this movie.
And they needed Egon,
They needed
and
Egon.
that was the part that I really like. It like, I lost it, man. I lost it.
It was like,
when he showed up and took her hand.
Yeah, I mean, I cry way more than I used to with movies. I think it's just getting older or whatever. I mean, I'm just whatever, and I don't care anymore. I used to care probably more, but that was like one of those things where it's just like, I'm not gonna like weep and make a noise, but like I'm gonna let the tears go. Because like I cared a lot about these movies. I mean, there's a good part of me that probably actually cares more about Ghostbusters than any movie.
Yeah,
and that's just and like I said, if you at all like these movies, you'll love this movie in that sense. And if you love Ghostbusters like you and I do, you're done. Yeah, you're done. And this is
Forget about it.
Yeah.
I would say, and there was 2 end credit scenes. The first was kind of a callback to the ESP scene in the original, and they got Sigourney Weaver to come back.
That was awesome because they say and Sigourney Weaver, and it's like I was like, what? Where? And then immediately you get the scene.
Right. And then I actually I thought that was it. And so I took off. I didn't know that there was another scene with Ernie Hudson where they teased the potential sequel. Personally, I kind of don't want them to do anymore because I thought this was perfect.
Sure.
I thought it was absolutely perfect. And it won the box office for the weekend, and it's outperforming expectations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they'll do more. because studios like money. You know what I mean?
It's Ghostbusters.
But I think for like the preservation of the franchises, this was the perfect end cap, you know, like you said, almost 40 years later. And let's just be done, because this was a 12 out of 10 piece of perfection for, this is exactly what this is, right? Pop culture and nerd culture beating at the nexus of the universe. And you have this movie that was a phenomenon in the 80s, and it kind of went away, and it stayed in the hearts of people like you and me who were more on the nerdy side or whatever, and it brought it all back. I will say I was disappointed that there wasn't a shout out to Tobin Spirit Guide. That was the only thing that I didn't catch. They brought Ivo Shandor back. They brought Zool and Gozer and I Am the Gatekeeper and all that fun stuff. I really hope if they do a sequel to this that it's not Vigo from the second 80s movie. But yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about this movie. Like I said, my favorite movie of the year, hands down. But I do know, I understand that a lot of it is just the nostalgia for the original as well. So
I think that, you know, but also, like, if you don't have nostalgia for Ghostbusters, then
if you're like, we're almost 40, you know what I mean? We're 37.
I understand that, but like, I mean,
if you're 20 years old, you're not.
If you're 20 years old and you haven't seen Ghostbusters, though, then you need to talk to your parents. I'm serious. Like, if I had children, I'm showing them Ghostbusters oldest 4.
It's kind of scary.
It's a little scary. Guess what? Life's scary, Brenton. You know, going to work every day.
So
scary.
Here's the thing: Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like we said, if you are a Ghostbusters fan, see this movie.
Yeah.
And if you're not a Ghostbusters fan, it's probably not going to hit you as hard.
If you're not a Ghostbusters fan, watch the first 2 Ghostbusters. And
I still think that there's enough in there for newcomers to at least enjoy it.
She's so good.
But that's the thing,
though,
even her being good is because it's Egon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to have that frame of reference.
I will say her friend is very good.
Podcast
is very good. As like, he's the Nate from like Spider-Man.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so like, I like that too, where like, he's just a nice sidekick. And also, you know, we were talking about how Paul Rudd's great in this movie because he knows he's not the star. Like, it kind of takes the thing of like, I'm not the star. Let me just be Paul Rudd in this movie. So he's just very Paul Rudd.
Yeah. He's something.